My name is Ben Chawan. I'm 68 years old, and I want to tell you something that I kept to myself for a very long time. Not out of embarrassment exactly, but out of a quiet uncertainty about whether the world I live in now, with all its speed and its screens and its preference for the measurable and the scientific, would have any patience for what I am about to share. But I have reached the age where patience for other people's skepticism matters far less to me than honesty. And what I am about to tell you is honest. It is lived. It is mine. There is something in your kitchen right now that has more power than you have ever given it credit for. Something so ordinary, so unremarkable, so present in the daily rituals of cooking and eating that you have almost certainly stopped seeing it. I am talking about garlic. That small, papery, pungent bulb that sits in a basket or a drawer or a ceramic pot on your counter, waiting to be used in your next meal. I want to tell you what happens when you stop using it only for food and start using it with intention. When you place it deliberately and consciously in a specific location in your home, and what can begin to shift in your life within the hours that follow. But before I tell you what to do and where to put it, I need to tell you why. Because I have learned over these 68 years that a gesture made without understanding is just a gesture. And a gesture made with understanding, with genuine presence, with the full weight of your intention behind it, is something else entirely. It is a declaration. And declarations, when they are honest and sincere, have a way of reorganizing the invisible architecture of a life. Let me tell you about the period in my own life when I first truly understood the power of this practice. I was in my early 50s, a time that I remember as one of the most quietly desperate periods I have known. Not because anything catastrophic had happened, but because nothing was moving. The financial life of my family had plateaued in a way that felt permanent. My husband and I were both working. We were both trying. And yet the sense of barely enough was so persistent, so unchanging, that I had begun to accept it as simply the shape of our lives, as the ceiling above which we were not permitted to rise. I had tried the obvious things, budget adjustments, extra work when it was available, careful, disciplined management of what came in and what went out. All of it responsible, all of it reasonable, and none of it sufficient to break through the ceiling. What I had not tried, because I had not yet learned to see it as something worth trying, was addressing the energetic dimension of our situation, the invisible layer beneath the practical one, the frequency of the home we were living in, and the frequency of the people we were when we were inside it. It was my mother who opened that door for me. She visited us during that difficult period, and she walked through our home with the particular attentiveness that very old people sometimes have. The attentiveness of someone who has learned to read the energy of spaces the way others read words on a page. She moved through the rooms quietly, said very little, and then sat down at my kitchen table and looked at me for a long moment. She said, "This house is tired, and the tired house is making you tired, and you are both so tired that nothing new can find its way in." I asked her what she meant. She said, "There are things that clean, not just the dirt you can see, the dirt you cannot see, the heaviness that builds up in corners and doorways and in the air between walls when a family has been worried for a long time. Your grandmother used garlic for this, her grandmother before her. It is old knowledge, but it works because the truth it is based on is old." She told me what to do, not in a mysterious or elaborate way, plainly, the way she told me everything, as if it was simply a practical piece of information that I had been missing and could now use. That same evening, after she had gone to bed, I did what she described. I took 3 cloves of garlic, whole and unpeeled, firm and healthy, not old or dried or damaged. I held them in my palms for a moment and felt their weight, their solidity, their quiet presence. They were so ordinary, so completely ordinary, and yet holding them with that quality of attention made them feel significant in a way I hadn't expected. I went to the place my mother had indicated. The kitchen is the heart of a home. It is where nourishment is created, where the family gathers, where the energy of sustenance and provision is most concentrated. And within the kitchen, the area near the stove, the place where food is transformed from raw material into nourishment, is the most energetically active space in the entire house. I placed the 3 cloves near the base of the stove, tucked into a small corner where they would not be disturbed but would remain present. And before I placed them, I did what my mother had instructed. I spoke to them. Not with embarrassment, with the genuine, unpretentious directness of someone who is simply stating what she needs. I said, "I place you here to clear what is heavy and to protect what is ours. What does not belong in this home, let it leave. What we need, let it find its way in." Then I left them, and I went to bed without expectation and without the anxious monitoring of someone waiting for proof. What happened in the following 24 hours was not a single dramatic event. It was a series of small things, each unremarkable on its own, but together forming a pattern that I could not explain through coincidence alone. The first thing I noticed was the air in the kitchen the next morning. It sounds strange to say that air can feel different, but it did. There was a quality of lightness that had not been there the day before. Not the absence of the garlic smell, which was actually present and somehow comforting rather than intrusive. A lightness in the energetic quality of the space. The kitchen, which had felt heavy and pressured, felt more like a kitchen should feel, like a place where good things were possible. My husband commented on it without being prompted. He said the house felt different and he couldn't say why. He was not a person who spoke in those terms. He was practical, analytical, the kind of man who would have rolled his eyes at the idea of garlic placed near a stove for energetic reasons. but he felt the difference. He named it without knowing what had created it. By the end of that day, two things had happened that had concrete practical significance for our financial situation. A phone call came from someone who offered my husband a project he had been hoping for but had stopped expecting. And a bill that had seemed impossible to resolve suddenly found an unexpected path to resolution through a conversation that happened by what appeared to be chance. Were these things caused by the garlic? That is not exactly the right question. The right question is this: what did the act of placing the garlic with genuine intention and genuine presence do to the energy of that home and to the people living in it? And my honest answer, arrived at over many years of reflection and observation, is that it shifted something. Not in the world outside, in us. In the quality of our attention, our expectation, our openness to the day and to what it might bring. And that shift, as small and as subtle as it was, changed what we noticed, what we reached toward, and what we allowed ourselves to receive. That is always how it works. The outer change follows the inner one. The inner one is what the garlic, placed with genuine intention, helps to create. Now I want to explain to you more carefully the why behind this practice, because understanding the why is what allows you to do it with the presence that makes it real rather than simply mechanical. Garlic has been used as a protective and purifying element in virtually every ancient culture that had access to it. In ancient Egypt, it was placed at the entrances of homes and temples. In ancient Greece, it was associated with the protection of boundaries. In Asian traditions across many countries, it has been used to clear negative energy and to repel what the old teachers called harmful influence. In European folk traditions, it appears in virtually every context associated with the removal of what is unwanted and the protection of what is valued. These cultures had no contact with one another in many cases. They arrived at the same understanding through observation, through experience, through the accumulated wisdom of generations who paid close attention to what worked and what did not. What they observed was that garlic, in its raw and natural form, carries a particular energetic quality, a sharpness, a clarity, a quality that is almost forceful in its ability to cut through what is stagnant or accumulated or unwelcome. This is not separate from its physical properties. Garlic is one of the most powerfully antimicrobial substances in nature. It literally clears the air of harmful things at a biological level. The energetic dimension of this is simply the broader expression of what is also true at the molecular level. When you place garlic in your home with intention, you are working with both dimensions simultaneously, the physical and the energetic, the visible and the invisible, and the combination of both, activated by the clarity of your own genuine intention, is what produces the result you feel in the hours that follow. I want to be very specific about where to place it, because placement matters and you deserve that clarity. The kitchen, as I have described, is the primary place, specifically near the stove, which is the most energetically active point in the kitchen. The stove represents provision. It represents the transformation of the raw into the nourishing. It represents the fire that makes the home warm and the family fed. Garlic placed near this point is placed at the center of the home's abundance energy. But there are other places that also respond to this practice. The entrance of the home, the threshold, the place where the energy of the outside world meets the energy of your inner world. Garlic placed at the entrance, on the inside, not displayed prominently but positioned deliberately, acts as a filter. What enters your home from outside passes through this energetic point first. And the corners of the main room, particularly corners that have felt heavy, cold, or somehow less comfortable than the rest of the space. Corners accumulate, as I have described before, and garlic placed in a corner that feels energetically stuck can help to break up what has collected there. In each case, the placement should be done with the same quality of presence, not hurried, not mechanical, with a moment of genuine stillness before you put the garlic down, with the weight of your intention clearly formed in your mind and your heart before the gesture is made. And the words you speak, either aloud or silently, should be your own, not copied from what I said or from anything you have read. Your own honest words, saying what you genuinely intend. Because the power in this practice is not in the garlic itself, and it is not in any specific formula of words. The power is in the quality of your presence and the sincerity of your intention. Those are yours alone. And they are what make the difference between a piece of garlic sitting in a corner and a declaration of energetic housekeeping made by someone who means it. After 24 hours, collect the garlic and dispose of it outside your home, not in your indoor rubbish, outside, where what it has absorbed can return to the earth to be neutralized. And if you feel called to renew the practice, do so. There is no fixed schedule. Your own sense of the energy of your home is the best guide. When the air feels heavy again, when the stagnation returns, when the flow seems to slow, these are the signals that the practice can be renewed. And always, always pair the outer gesture with the inner work, because the garlic can clear what has accumulated in the space. But only you can clear what has accumulated inside yourself. The fear you carry about money, the beliefs about what is possible for you, the old stories that say prosperity belongs to other people and not to you. These things the garlic cannot touch. They require your own honest attention, your own willingness to see them and to choose something different. The outer and the inner work together. Neither is sufficient alone. I am 68 years old. I have placed garlic in my home many times over many years. Not out of superstition, not out of desperation, out of a deep earned respect for practices that carry the wisdom of generations, and out of my own direct experience of what shifts when these practices are done with genuine presence and genuine faith. My financial life today is not the same as the financial life I had in those difficult years in my early 50s. The journey from there to here was not made in a single gesture or a single night. It was made through sustained inner change, through consistent practical effort, and through the regular intentional tending of the energetic quality of my home and my relationship with abundance. The garlic was not the whole journey, but it was a doorway, a simple, humble, accessible doorway. And sometimes what we need most is not the complicated path. It is simply the doorway that shows us there is a path at all. If these words have given you something today, if they have opened something or clarified something or reminded you of something you already knew but had set aside, I want to invite you to stay in this space. Come back when you need to be reminded. Subscribe and walk with me through these reflections, because there is still much more I want to share with you from these years of paying careful, loving attention to the invisible forces that shape our visible lives. Tonight, if you feel called, go to your kitchen. Take 3 cloves of garlic. Hold them for a moment. Feel their weight and their realness in your hands. And then place them near your stove with the clearest, most honest intention you can gather. Speak your own words, not mine, yours. And then let the next 24 hours show you what becomes possible when you tend to the invisible as carefully as you tend to the visible. I believe something will shift, not because I am asking you to believe in magic, but because I have seen over and over again what happens when a person decides with their whole self that they are ready for something different. The house hears that decision. The energy of your life hears it, and it responds.